Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today, amazingly, I'm making you a video about Orca being finished, because I've been doing bits and bobs. And a lot of people have kind of said to me, because I've been doing it a long time, why is it taking you so long to build a rig? Well, I do it in little bits and bobs when I get time, and we need to remember is that OC 3D, Time to Live, Rush Kit, all that is my that's my job. That's what I do. This is what I do for a living. I haven't got another job. This is what I do. So some days when I've been working all day, I don't necessarily want to then, like you guys would, come home from work and then play with your computer, work on your projects and stuff. Sometimes then I just want to go out and watch a cinema, or go for a meal, or just chill out and watch the telly or a film or something. So I do it as and when. Now, the other thing with this is I was never ever going to just rush it out and just do a quick build with it. I wanted to take my time and go through the motions, kind of slowly. I mean, I'd been waiting over a month just to flip and cut the hole in the roof. I was never in any kind of, rush. Now, just to recap for those of you that don't know, I know a lot of the regular subscribers do, but Orca was a build that I've kind of named in honour of, memorial of, kind of, because my mum died a few years ago, and her favourite, kind of like, she was really, really into whales. She was very passionate about whales and whale conservation and Greenpeace and the Sea Shepherd and all that kind of thing. And her favourite whale was a killer whale, which is called an orca. So that's where the name come from. Now, again, right at the very beginning, a lot of people didn't understand why I never used the NZXT Switch 810. And the reason why I chose the striker was I could personally make the striker more of my own case by customising it. It's the inside of the case I've changed quite extensively, really, compared to, kind of a stock chuck it in case. And I personally, at that, I didn't feel that I could have gotten that kind of level of customization out of a Switch. Now, I did give the Switch the 2012, the Case 2012 a Year Award. Didn't give it to the Striker or the Stormtrooper, because I felt out the box the 810 was a better case. But for me personally, I could see more, out of me customizing this. It was just a few little things. Because I didn't just want a chuck it in there and build case, because that's just a day, two at the most to make a case, a build like that. I wanted something a little more kind of custom. Now, another thing was I've not built myself a custom, and I mean properly custom computer, as in like by chopping stuff and all that kind of thing, since the original one that I did, which was Heaven and Hell. So it's been quite a few years since I've had something. So that was another reason why I didn't want to rush it. So what I thought we'd do today is there's a few things that you've not seen. I've put the black, done the black around the vents and the handles in. I've done the airflow mod. I've got the plaque in with the lights are all there now. So what I'm going to do, just in case you haven't seen the other videos, I'm going to go around this almost like a review. We're going to look at all of the things that I've done to it this time, and then what I'm going to do is in a week or two's time, once it's been on my desk and I've used it for a bit, what I'll then do is we'll do another video of like a review, and I'll tell you the stuff that I would have done differently, the stuff that I wish I'd done better, the stuff that I would change if I did it again, because there are things I'd instantly do differently now. It's been a good kind of like learning curve, because I've not really dedicated time to putting anything in like this like I used to. I've not got a workshop anymore. I've got a garage, but there's no power out there. Before I had the man shed and all my tools out there and everything, and I'm quite restricted now. I'm what I would call kind of generally like an average one of you guys. By that, and I mean that I'm only really using like a Dremel or a jigsaw and a handheld power drill. I'm not really using any big flashy. I mean, before I had bandsaws and I was going off using laser cutters and water cutters and powder coating, and I was doing all sorts when I was doing it professionally. I don't really do that anymore. So this is kind of what I would say is this is the type of thing that if you know your way around a screwdriver, as in you know which way round it should go, and you can use a Dremel properly, and you understand that you always you always need to finish your edges, and you don't always just, you know, the Dremel cut isn't the cut that you use. Simple kind of engineering stuff, you should be able to do something like this yourself. And then really the only thing that you have to then get right for yourself is the design of it. And I spent ages kind of imagining things in my head. How would that look? What's that going to be like? I daydream a lot anyway. But so I did put a lot of time and thought into this before I even attacked it with a Dremel. I mean, to be fair, I was chopping up the Stormtrooper, like when I did the rad mod, the 360 radiator mod for the roof on the original Trooper. That was me beginning my thought process for Orca even then. Right, so what I'm going to do, because I know you want to have a look, I know you like a good chit chat when it comes to stuff like this, but I do want to show you around. There's still an awful lot to do, because I'm going to show you around the outside, and then we need to turn the lights on, and then yeah, there's an awful lot to kind of try and show you. Anyway, I'm going to shush now, and I will walk you around and give you a good look. Oh, I thought I was going to sneeze. Right then, so we'll go for like a review kind of layout format. So I start at the top and then we'll work our way around. First things first, at the top, the Orca plaque. This is obviously the Orca logo, slightly different to the one I use on the videos, but still, that's the Orca logo. Now the numbers, 21st of the 10th, 1959, or 21/10/59 to 16/10/07. That's the date that she was born and the date that she died. So that's just a plaque to kind of really kind of solidify what this project is about for me personally. This is kind of me finally closing a book on what I would quite openly call my therapy with me dealing with the loss of my mum. So yes, it's like a token towards her name and what she stood for, but at the same time this is me trying to move on and move past. So that's why we've done this. So I've obviously removed the power button and all the fan controller and everything. All the wires from underneath that would have been connected to all of that have gone. All I've got connected up now, like all the cables around the back have gone, are the USBs, and the reset is now wired up as the power button. I've painted over the where it said reset, so it's just a plain white there now. Now we've got a third fan in the roof because I've obviously got a 360mm rad in the top now, and I've trimmed around. I've done the airflow mod as I did with a 360 cut before, but I've done the airflow mod around here, so we've got better airflow. And that's really it for the roof, to be fair. The handle is there, but it's not functional, it's just removable. It just kind of like holds itself in there. I personally, I'm not going to be using this for lands or anything like that, so I don't need to have a working roof, you know, handle like this. So that's just there for aesthetics to kind of like finish the flow off. Now what I'll do is I'm going to turn this around because I'm hoping if we get this lit right, you'll be able to see. Now you'll have to bear with me, so I'm not sure whether the camera will pick it up, but we'll have a go. Hopefully it will. I can roughly see it there. Now that should be where the X dock is, where you have like a 2.5-inch hard drive put in. Now all that is two bits of, it's the mesh that went behind the side panel, cutouts where the metal mesh is, and this is just plastic mesh, but it's two pieces, and I've layered it up and got it exact so that you can see. Please focus. Okay, we'll come back a bit. So you can see that you've got the tiny little star holes. It was just, I didn't want to just put a piece of black like carbon in there or something. It's still, it's like a bit of funky mesh really, is the only way I can put it. And I just thought that was a better idea than, like I said, just a bit of carbon really. And that's why I did that. If you're hearing me kind of wheezing, then I am asthmatic. I'm having a bit of bad trouble with my chest at the moment. Anyway, the rest of the front is pretty, well, is standard. When you run down, you can see the radiator in the front, and then goes down to the bottom where you would normally have the drawer. That's obviously not in there because we've just got the radiator in the front there. Now we'll do this side, but we will come back to this and I'll show you them lit up as well. The hard drives. I obviously have two 480 gigabyte Force 3 GTs, which Corsair were kind enough to give to me. Now I wanted to make a feature of these, so I've mounted them on the because I've put a blank in. You'll see when we open the other side up, but that's a whole sheet that I've put there to blank off what was the drive bays, and they're mounted to that with motherboard standoffs. There are lights at the front as well which light those up, which I'll show you. But I just wanted to make a proper feature of the solid state drives, considering the money that they're worth, rather than just kind of like just sticking them in a normal drive bay or something. Now another thing that I can show you is we've obviously got the black mesh on, but the part of the case behind the black mesh I've actually now painted black, because when it was white before, it didn't work. The mesh looked great, but it didn't look right over the top. So I've been in there, I actually painted that by hand to get the edges perfect. There was no way I was ever going to be able to do that properly, especially where there's such a recess there, with like spray cans or anything. So I did indeed do that by hand, and that's the same on the other side. So I've done that on the other side as well. I will be on this side, I will be putting a bit of clear acrylic behind it just to stop dust being able to go in there, but still give the window look. But I'm quite happy with it for now. The case pressure is set up as positive, so not really getting too many problems there at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to try and zoom in, but all the bolts around the window, if you see, you've got all around the edge. What I'm going to try and do is just take you in. There we go. They're actually 3mm Allen bolts, the same as I've used throughout the whole of the case. There is not one rivet anywhere in the case. I've put everything that's got Allen, buttoned Allen keys. Now another thing that I did is I had some stainless Allen keys, stainless bolts and nuts, specially chemically black. They ended up costing me an arm and a leg. Obviously I know I'm very lucky that I can, get my hardware for free and stuff. So I've spent what most people would say, even I would say, is a stupid amount of money on things like nuts and bolts. I've spent in excess of £350 just bolting this thing together. Everything's got stainless nuts and bolts that are chemically black. There's red washers, as I was showing you before, on everything. Even the motherboard bolts are on there with those red washers as well. Again, it was just the smaller details. I wanted to try and do as much as I possibly could do to try and make this, all the little things kind of add up to something great. Anyway, now would be a good point, if you've not seen what I've done with this case, to go and just remind yourself what the inside of a CM Stormtrooper looks like. More than anything else, the front kind of bay area. But I'll take the side panel off. One thing I will do on the side panel is I'll show you around the back as well. All the nuts that I've used are dome headed, so you've got no kind of like bare threads or anything. It's just a real kind of like, just finishes it off nice. Pretty much all of the nuts and bolts throughout the rest of the case are dome headed nuts and bolts as well. Now in the front, the only thing I'm not happy about with at the moment is this cable. I think what I'm going to end up doing is coming down underneath the motherboard, and anyway, that was just the final thing that I stuck in today. So in the roof, we've done the 360mm radiator mod. I've actually got a 30mm all copper alpha cool radiator in the roof. In the front is an 80mm thick all copper alpha cool rad. They're both wired, set up as push-pull in the front, out the top. What I've also done, quite controversially as well, is I've got a 140mm Corsair airflow fan in the back that's blowing in to give a positive pressure. This little black thing on the back, as I'll show you a bit later on, is actually a dust filter that I've set up, because there's no dust filter at all for the back. There's minimal stuff on the front, but I've set this up with a dust filter so it's sucking in, just to give a bit more positive pressure. Also, where it's going to be sat, it'll be near the window, so when I have got the window open in the summer, it'll be drawing a little bit of cool air in from outside rather than inside. So we've got that. The reservoir is a bits power one. The pump is and that includes the reservoir, the pump top, which is that square bit, the arms that go off the side, and then separately I've got that black cover which covers the D5 pump up. You can also see at the bottom that I've got it on rubber like grommets. They're actually hard drive grommets that I've mounted it with, old Land Lee style soft ones, but it's also all still bolted through with the Allen key nuts and bolts and the red washers and everything, so the theme follows on throughout. Also, the floor, we have a custom flooring, white carbon fibre coated. It's a stealth panel to cover up all the vents and everything on the bottom. I always have my power supply fans up where possible, and I've obviously got the Corsair AX860 in there. It's a little bit overkill for the rig, to be fair, but the colouring and everything works, and I'm going to be using the 760 in the TNR rig when I start that in the not too distant future. So we've got the rad in the front and the rad in the roof. We've obviously cut the roof to allow that extra fan. The front, if you have a look, we've got a complete drive bay missing, and I mean a complete drive bay missing. You can actually see where it should have bolted in here and here, and this whole section, you can see it's just some C-strip I've put up, but this is where the drive bay should come down. A lot of people seem to just take the what were the hard drive bays out of it, and I didn't really like it. I wanted to have the radiator completely exposed there, so you can see it. You know, I know you're not going to have the door off, but it just seems a lot better and a lot more optically pleasing for me to have, you know, for you to be able to see that. It just makes it feel a lot more airy, a lot more open. If anything, I would say personally, I think that looks a bit cleaner that way as well. So we've done that. Now, something I have done just to show you, to link the two radiators, because it goes into the top radiator first, goes round and then comes down through that fixed link, which is just there. That's like a multi-GPU link, goes straight down to the next one, and it goes around that radiator out the other side, and then we start the loop. It goes into the MOSFET first, and then into the CPU block, down to the chipset, which does the little chip at the top, but mainly just the south bridge, and then into the graphics cards. Something I have done, which was quite controversial, a lot of people were kind of umming and ahhing about this. Technically, that coolant's block is reversed. It goes in the out and out the in. And I did that just to have it tidy, because otherwise what I would have to have done is rotated the block round 180 degrees, which would have meant the coolant's logo would have been upside down, which would have drove me nuts. So then I would have had two options: either polish the coolant's logo off, but I know that that's the nickel plating on that might not have been, you know, massively thick, and I didn't know how much the etching or the, you know, whatever they've done to do it had gone into the material. So I took the safe option, because I didn't want to end up with like a brassy coloured bit in the middle. Also didn't really want to get rid of the logo in either, and that's I wanted to just keep the coolant's logo there. Really, you can see it on that and the chipset block, and I think it looks much better that way. So the temps may have been affected, you know, slightly, but I'm really not fussed about it enough to give a monkeys. I just wanted to go for the looks. So then we go on to, I've used, if I come out again, you can see I've used white bits power fittings throughout. I love the fittings, they're amazing. When you do screw them onto blocks though, you can get little bits of the white coating come off. And in a couple of places, if you look in my reservoir, you can see tiny little white specks, and that's come from that. But again, I'm not really fussed. It's two 79770s in there, cooled with coolants water blocks. It's coolants water blocks throughout. The motherboard, the CPU and the GPU are coolants. They're actually the ones that I used in the CKC rig earlier on in this year. When Special Tech first picked up coolants as a brand, I built them a quick rig just to show off the stuff. It was basically a case of, they said, we've got some stuff, do you think you could do something nice with it? And I'd get on with Corsair, get on with Special Tech really well. So I said, yeah, I can do something with that. I've still got my Cosmos 2 here, and I built this rig for them. And obviously a lot of the stuff hangs about, water blocks and stuff generally do. So rather than selling them on, I liked them that much. I knew I wanted to use them for myself. So they got earmarked and put to one side as I was starting to plan this. I think they kind of work quite well in there, especially now we've got the Corsair Dominator Platinum in there, which lights up white. I will be changing those the tops to the new light bars when they arrive as well. But for now, but anyway, I think it looks brilliant in there. I've obviously tried to keep the hosing down to an absolute minimum, hide it where possible. Just to kind of point out to you, the in and out for the pump is actually round the back. Now the out goes straight up the back of the radiator and actually connects on just at the top here. I'm just going to flip the screen around to make sure that you can see. That's the input for the first radiator, just up there. And it actually gets hidden right the way down the back of the rad and then comes into this. The final out from the graphics actually goes up, hugs right the way across the top of the graphics card, and then loops just down in there. This is the fact that I spent so long trying to get that tidy. What I'm going to have to do is undo a couple of screws on the bottom of the motherboard and pull the motherboard out a little bit, and then I will put these two cables, because I'm really not happy with these here. I'll put them through the grommet at the bottom on the right hand side, slide them over the top of the motherboard standoffs, and then I'll have those kind of appearing from on the other side of the motherboard. The only reason I didn't do it earlier on was because this is quite a thick cable, and it might not bend so well, but I'll give that a chance. But that's something I can do when I've got half an hour spare. So that's that. Other thing is the drive bay on this side. I've removed most of the material from that drive bay, and I've got two sandwiched 2mm aluminium plates covered in white Dynoc, which I've used on this floor, that around the back, a couple other places as well, to give me a good, when they're pulled together, they're very, very rigid. It's actually, that side of the case is stronger than the rest of the case. And that again, so I had something to bolt the hard drives to. The radiator is also bolted to that panel, so it's all very, very tight. But when it's all in there, it gives it a bit of extra structural rigidity, because by removing this panel, we lost a lot of it. And before I put those panels in, the case would twist quite badly. So, you know, that's why I did that. Now, if I turn it round, we'll have a look at the back quickly. In fact, you can see the fan filter there. So actually it is a dust filter. It's just a very basic one. You can get them on eBay, and most of your shops sell them. You know, like Special Tech and the like. It's just it's a bit of extra dust filter in there. Now, I just remembered something I missed on the inside. Just to show you at the top, hidden out the way, because obviously I won't see that. That's the switch for the lights. You got the lighting intensity, and then you got the two power switches for that. Around the back you can see even more of the dome-headed bolts and the washers. You know, dome-headed bolts everywhere. Just to show you, oh crikey, I didn't even. Dome-headed bolts are everywhere throughout the back of the case. As I said before, there's not a rivet left in the case. something I did forget to point out. I'll put it at that angle so that I can zoom you in a little bit better. I painted the GPU back plates black to match the normal PCI brackets, and then also the GPUs and everything are all held in with those Allen keys as well, but they're not only the Allen keys, there's a bolt on the other side as well, so there isn't any bare thread. So I put the same cap-headed nuts on the reverse side, so this is one side, it's round the other side where the GPU like cables would go in. That's all been done properly as well. The only things I've got to do, because it's still in interim, is I've got a Zonar D2X sound card and I need to put that in, but that will just go in the final slot, and I only need to run one minor cable then, and then that'll be that done. I've actually got the cable ready just to pull out. It's just on the other side here, the little floppy cable. In fact, there it is. There's the floppy cable to power my D2X, and it's there ready, so I need to fit it and then boom, done. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some power to the old girl, start her up, and I'll show you it with the lights on. I'll show you around again. I'll talk to you about what I think about the lights as well. But also we've got lights on the back panel, which I really wanted to show you in the dark as well. So I'm just going to run a power to it now, and I will be back with you in a sec. Now you can see a kind of glow around the other side, and that's just the LEDs on the other side of the case that's lighting up the wall a bit. Now I've left the side panel on just so you can see that's the way I'm gonna see it. Just on the back, just to show you. Other one, Tom. I can turn them down if I want and turn them back up again, but I can also disable the lights altogether. The ones in the roof, you can still turn them on and off, but one thing a lot of people said is that it would light the roof up funny, because obviously you can see the plastic, and it does, but it does make an amazing kind of feature on the ceiling. I'm not so sure that I'll run it like that very often, because it does look funny. I'd have to paint the inside of the plastic to block it from coming through, but they're up there nonetheless, and it's something that I can, you know, flick on and off as and when I want. Now if I if I take the side panel off, we'll start at the bottom and then I'll move the camera. Now there are NZXT braided cable runs, and a lot of people didn't like my choice because it's quite, you can see like bright patches, but if I bring you in, I'm hoping we'll be able to do this and the camera pick it up a bit better. I may have to turn the ISO down on the camera, but it is actually quite subtle. In fact, let me just turn the ISO down on the camera just so I can try and get you a better representation of what it looks like to me. Right, then that's a lot closer to the way I see it, you know, to my native eye. It's quite subtle, and it's a bit like a hotel is the only way I can put it. A lot of hotels now have like those spotlight things. That's kind of the way these look a bit like. I've got them all the way around the top and down the side. Now if I go down, they're all the way, in fact, sod it, old school. Let's get the camera off. They go all the way around the roof of the radiator, and you can see this is the wire that comes across, because it's obviously one big loop, and then it comes down right the way down the side of the board, right the way down the outside. It was a mission to get them all in there and tight, and then around the front, and it actually ends here, but they go from up there. You can see the cables here. That's the power cable going up to the like the switches and everything that are at the top. but when you think about it, it's not something that you're really going to notice that much. But hopefully you can see by the way it's lighting that carbon up, the reason why I chose these. The LED strips are very hard to cable correctly. To have got this much light in it, you'd either have a massive bright patch at the top, or you've had to have lots of them. And what I really wanted was the fact that I've got the cables just at it just loop round. So there's not multiple amounts of cables. The easiest way to cable tidy your rig is the least that you put in there, the little amount of cables that you put in there, it will make it a lot easier to keep tidy. A lot of people said about the in between the graphics cards being a bit dark, but to be fair, I'm really not bothered about it. It lights up the main area. Now again, if I could change the ISO, so this bit you can see what I can see, which I can see all the reflections. I can see it's all really subtly lit, because I turned the ISO down on the camera so you can see those better. You can't really see that now. Now the RAM obviously lights up as well, but the rest of the case lighting is quite overpowering, so you don't really get the best effect from it. But what I'm going to do now is put you back on the camera, back on the tripod, and I'll show you the hard drives. Now this bit is the one area where I have used an LED strip light. I've used it's a Bit Phoenix one. It's 12 centimeters long, and it's pretty much in the middle of the two hard drives. You can see where the light is bleeding through the front panel a little bit, but again, it's not something that you can really fix. Some people have said, oh, I should have put a light on the other side as well, but if you put a light on the other side, it doesn't light the stickers up any better. You can actually see what they say perfectly fine. Don't forget, I've only got the ISO on 50 at the moment. If I turn it up, it kind of bleaches it out. But it looks perfect, really, because it's not overpowering, that it's lighting the entire room up. But they're lit up enough that you can clearly see what they are. You can see that they're meant to be getting made a feature of. And also, if I'd made them any brighter, put any more light in there, it would have made the bleeding bit coming through from the front panel even worse. That's where the clip for the front panel goes onto the case. So you've got like a latch that goes on the inside, so it's just the light going through the arm of that clip through the plastic, really. But I'm very, very happy with the way that they look, lit up and non-lit up, to be fair. During the day they still look amazing. But anyway, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to give you kind of a little bit of a conclusion now, yeah, I'll be back in a sec. Right then, peeps, kind of a little bit of a wrap up. There's going to be, I know there's going to be many of you that are going to say, oh, you should have done it this way, you should have done this, you should have done that, and maybe in your eyes, fair enough, but I am completely happy with this. A lot of people said to me at the start, there's too much white for an Orca, there's not enough black. Well, again, I knew that once I started putting all of the other parts inside, we were going to get that massive splash of black. I think the only thing that I did really need to do in the end to the outside was add that black underneath the mesh. But I did go to extraordinary lengths when you consider it, like with the nuts and bolts, rather than the rivets, tiny little details like that, the fact that I chopped the drive bay out altogether. But I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the roof mod and the airflow mod that we did all the way around the handle. I love the fact that we've got so much kind of radiator space in here. It's so quiet as well. The D5 pump I've actually got running on, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got it running just below 3, and I still get really good temps. I did get 5 gigahertz overclocked with it. I settled for 4.8 in the end, which was a 48 multiplier with 100 bass. I did bump the bass up to get 5. But basically the 3970X that I've got in there that's running is also running 2400 memory. This is the first of my 2011 chips that I've ever done it. Beyond that point, I overclocked because the memory that's in here at the moment is Platinum 2666, and I managed to get the CPU to hold 2550 megahertz, which for a 2011 chip is just bonkers. It was a really good chip, but what I did is I knocked all the volts and everything back down, knocked the base clock back down. I've got the memory running at 2400 megahertz now. And the fans, they're all set up on fan speed reducers as well. The fans hardly really spin at all. They don't move a massive amount of air. Again, I wanted it to be really quiet, not, just because I've got a massive radiator in here doesn't mean I need to have the fans spinning like nuts. I wanted it to be clean, tidy and quiet. The loudest bit in it, I would say now, either this back fan or the pump. I can just about hear a hum from the pump, but nothing kind of mega overpowering. Once the side panel's all bolted on and everything, and I'm, sat there, I can hear, behind the camera, I can hear the Phantom 820. Yeah, the Phantom 820, I can never remember the name, because I put my rig in it to test it for a few weeks, and I never got around to changing it. So I wanted to wait until Orca was finished, and then I'll dismantle interim. But that is much noisier with the H100 in it and the standard NZXT fans than this is. I can hear that over this, which is why when I said to you about it, I had to kind of get my head in there. So I will do like a kind of a review bit of it, things that I maybe would like to have done differently if I'd really thought about it. But I think I'm going to be using this for a good few months, I would have thought, because I'm never going to get another rig started and built and done. This one took me long enough. One thing I will say though is when I dismantled Heaven and Hell, I looked back and wished I'd never done it. So what I need to try and do now really is try and keep Orca together. And I don't necessarily mean like right this minute, but I mean in the future, try and keep it together. And then at least if it gets to a point where I do replace it, then I mothball it. And I keep it almost like a museum piece, so that in the future I can go back and look at it, because I wish I still had Heaven and Hell now. To the point that, to kind of ruin the video, I've actually just bought, just to the right hand side, a P5K Premium and an E6850 for some old school 775 overclocking fun. But yeah, that's a kind of completely separate thing entirely. But I am massively happy with this. I've got all the operating system and everything set up on it today. I've got most of the apps and everything on there that I'll need, so I'm kind of ready to put it into place. I will do another video of the kind of what I would call the workstation setup with all my white stuff, because I've got white speakers there ready, white monitors, white keyboard and mouse. The only thing that I probably will wait for is the Corsair M65 white to turn up, because I'm going to be using that on my desk. But yeah, so there will be stuff coming. One thing I would like to say, there's quite a few people that I would like to thank, because for starters, the Trooper, when it arrived, there was only one. One went into Cooler Master, and I'd been on at them so much, they knew how much I liked the Trooper, they knew I was excited to see the Striker, and it was delayed because of like legal problems with them calling it a Stormtrooper and stuff, and they played it safe and called it the Striker anyway. But so I'd like to say a big thank you to Cooler Master for sending it to me, sending me the first one that they got in Europe anyway. Hopefully you think I've done it justice, because it has had quite a few video views now, and there's been a hell of a lot of stuff that I've done with this. So fingers crossed that Cooler Master kind of appreciate what this case meant to me, not only when they sent it to me, but what the case now stands for me. Because obviously I've got quite a close affiliation with other brands and stuff, and the fact that I did put a lot of noses out of joint that I chose the Striker for my personal rig. It was almost like I was endorsing the Cooler Master as an entire brand and kind of like selling out to them. But it was just the fact that I bloody liked the case, and more the fact that what I could have done with it, I couldn't have done what I wanted to do really with an NZXT case or a Corsair case or a Bit Phoenix case, or whatever brand that you wanted to pick from. I could have made nice rigs out of all of them, no doubt, especially with the parts I had available, but this was the one that I got attached to, I had the vision with. Also, I'd like to thank Aquatuning, mainly because I've got a lot of Aquatuning rads, but just the fact that, you know, the 80mm rad, it quite literally was, I went to Pask and said, look mate, can I have an 80 for Orca? And there never was a, it was just a, yeah, no problems mate. And again, hopefully it's, you know, they're going to think it's worth it. I know I've only got the 30 in the roof, and that was another thing that a lot of people said, why didn't you put the 45 in the roof and sacrifice the second set of fans? It wasn't for performance. Quite literally, I knew I had more than enough radiator coverage already. I didn't need to worry about performance. I just wanted the push-pull on the radiators so it looked more balanced. That was it. That's another reason why the fans are running so slow, because the performance really is overkill. I can drop the temps a fair whack by turning them up, but it's more than okay now the way it is. Also, Asus, then again, the Rampage was never sent to me for Orca. It was sent to me for other builds like CKC and stuff like that. It's just the fact that it's ended up in here, because I've got two of them. I've got one on the bench rig and one in Orca. But again, I'd like to say a big thank you to Asus. Also, thank you to Asus for the cards. Now, to show you these two 7970s, people seem to think that everything that you review hangs around. It doesn't really. Most stuff goes back. When I did the 7970 Quadfire review, these are the only two cards that I've got left from those four. But like I said, we've water cooled them, we've used them in quite a few different rigs now. They were using the CKC build, they were using many things. Anyway, I don't want to give other people flipping a lesson on how to be able to, you know, get stuff accurate. But anyway, they've ended up in Orca. I don't know whether I'll overclock them. I probably won't. There was a lot of hoo-ha that I said I may turn one of the cards off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crossfire them to start off with. And I'll run some tests because I use Sony Vegas to render. Now, Sony Vegas is alright, but the fact that I render in Windows Media video files doesn't really utilise my system. It certainly doesn't max it out. But that's a codec problem, not a Vegas problem. I will run some tests to see whether I can... Vegas works okay with them in Crossfire. If not, and Vegas still picks up the pair of the cards, I may just run them not in Crossfire. So you might not get, you know, see the Crossfire bridge, or I'll put it in there for the sake of it being in there. But that's why there's no Crossfire bridge in there at the moment, for anyone that's kind of asking. So a big thank you to Asus for the board and the cards. Intel, again, it started off with the engineering sample, like the original 3960X that I had, but I got the 3970X recently, which I tested, overclocked and got straight in this. The 3970X, before people ask what it performs like, they're cherry-picked 3960s. They generally should overclock better and probably hold more memory if I'm, you know, what my CPU is anything to go by. Hold a slightly higher memory clock if you know your way around the BIOS, and you will need to know your way around the BIOS, because getting this running at 2400 wasn't a case of just putting it onto 2400. It's also quite risky with these as well, because if you do use the XMP, like for argument's sake, the Corsair settings, or even the Rampage auto volts, that will put the VSSCA volts up much higher than it really needs to be. So especially with that type of thing, it's worth, especially the VCCSA volts or whatever it's called, you'll see it if you go and have a look. Put that in manually, because I've seen this running at 1.5 volts and it was just, the temps were rocketing. I think I've got it running at like 1.3, no 1.25, I can't remember. It's much lower anyway, and it runs fine. Now, I also want to thank Corsair, because I've got the two 480GB solid state drives on the other side. Then we've got the memory. I use all the Corsair SP120 fans, so I love the Corsair SP120 fans. It's quite a weird one, because I was always such a fractal freak. I was always such a Noctua freak before. And the only thing that went against them was the colour. But then when we got these, the performance, they don't perform as well as the NFF12s. The NFF12 still beat them performance-wise, but the Corsairs actually managed to get so close but be quieter. And it was the quiet factor that I personally fell in love with. As I said, I've got these running essentially the 6 fans on here are all wired into one 3-pin, and then that one 3-pin has got a fan speed reducer on it. Yes, it does get very hot, but I've got some really good heat shrink around it, and it's all right. But it does get warm. But so all 6 fans in the front are run off of one fan speed reducer. 6 fans in the roof run off of another fan speed reducer. So they are running really slow, but still get really, really good temps, and you can still feel the air moving out the top, even though there's hardly any kind of noise. Also with the memory, the 2666 memory, I've now got this memory running. It's running at 2400. Now it's running 2400 speed at 2133 timings at 1.5 volts, and even the 2133 stuff, I think they do some that's 1.5 volts, but if you go up to 2400 with the platinums, it's 1.65. So I've got this running 2400 at 2133 timings, but then with 1.5 volts. So the memories, this kit's epic. So I've got plenty of storage. That's in RAID 0. Plenty of RAM. There's only 16 gig in there. I have got another kit, but the reason why I left it spaced out, because I think it looks nicer. When there was 4 sticks either side, it looked like too much memory. And I do think it looks better split up like that. The other person I'd really personally like to thank would be Bits Power, because I've had support from Bits Power for donkey's years. I get on with Vincent really well. I'm kind of half the reason why these white fittings exist. I was pestering him for these 3 years ago, and it was something that me and Coolmeister had said to him about, and it slowly got developed. And I quite literally at least every other month we were having discussions about where they were, you know, with development and stuff like that. I thought there was a point last year when I was going to get these. Sorry, we're in 2013 now. When I got them in 2012, there was a period before in 2011 that I thought that I was going to be getting the first batch of white ones. There was a beta batch that they put out, and they didn't quite cut the mustard, and in the end they got put off another 3 months because Vincent didn't want to just have white ones. They've now got the dual coating so that you've got the black logo over the white. There were so many little things like that he kept putting off, and he kept putting off. But when you do get to see him, you know, in the flesh, you can understand why. And I'm more than happy to have waited. I think that this is probably the best rig that I could have done. If I'd have got it sooner, I don't think it would have been this good or matched this well. So big thank you to everyone. I have just realised that I completely bypassed the fact that I've got the AX 860 watt in the bottom as well. The fact that we've got the kind of the red and the chrome and the white, all the logo and everything does kind of like just go together. So when that arrived, it was originally going to be an AX 650 I was going to put in here, when it was going to be one graphics card with the white braided cables. I may upgrade the cables in this to white when the AXI cables do come out, but we'll have to see. It will be a mission for me to get the 8-pin up and in, but I'm sure I can give it a good go. But that's it. So big thank you to Cooler Master, Aqua Tuning. I tell you what, it's been really rude of me. I've completely bypassed the coolant stuff. The coolant stuff was obviously sent to me by Special Tech, and to kind of put it into context, Special Tech are my favoured UK retailer of choice when it comes to like cases and cooling. I always try and help them out. They've been really good to me over the years. I've got a really good close working relationship with them. I know the boys there. We've had plenty of beers and stuff like that. But they were the ones that helped me with the coolant stuff. Now, obviously, they come to me and they asked me to build, or if I would be interested in doing something for them around the coolants kit. And I liked it that much. I did move it on to this. But still, nevertheless, they need thanking. I got the Bits Power base for the pump. I didn't get that from Bits Power direct. That come from Special Tech. Hose come from Coolmeister, actually. He dug me out of a hole because my stuff was slightly yellowed. in the end, believe it or not, I had a tiny little bit, which was what I call my test hose, which was what we call the blue hose. It's still clear, but it's more bluey, so it looks more see-through than the stuff that they're making at the moment. It's quite yellow. Now, the bit that goes up the back of the radiator is the yellow hose, and the bit that goes from the bottom of this down to there is the yellow hose. But this bit of hose and this bit of hose, the two bits that you can see, was what I had, was my tester bit. And it literally was the bit that it'd been flung around the office for ages. I'll give it a bit of a polish. It come up lovely, and I used it on those two kind of like more visible bits. But nonetheless, it's got all the coolants kit in there. So if you're interested in this stuff, you can get it from Special Tech. Water blocks, lovely. I'm not so sure that they've got the motherboard Rampage block anymore, but it's worth asking. And obviously the two 7970 water blocks are also coolant, and it all matches. We've got the nickel that all kind of goes in together, the black. It was an absolute no-brainer, really. So a big thank you to Special Tech as well. So I'm going to wrap this video up here, because it's been an awfully long one, but I think if I'd have made it a short one, people would have worried. But I will be back to kind of give you my thoughts on what I could have done better, what I would do if I did it again, those type of things. And I'll also be back, I will show you it when it's finally nestled in its home on the edge of my desk, so you can see where it's going to be. And this is now my PC. So you may get 2 more videos out of me on this subject, but I'm going to shut up now because we've been here for forever. So for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you.